Control Players Unite.
Hey Control Nation, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Dr. Red. This video is a collection of advice on playing the Pokémon TCG better. I watched hours of PTCG advice videos from both professional and amateur alike on how to improve one's playing, and I found the suggestions fit into 5 categories. They offered what they thought are the best practices in gaining more skill at the game. So, we will go through each category and then summarize at the end the top 5 most important points. If you want detailed information on any of these topics, there are videos dedicated to them all over YouTube. Let's begin. The first category is deck building, and its overarching theme is mastery. The number one topic is consistency. Your deck needs to flow like a well-oiled machine. If it doesn't, you're going to have a bad time. Implied here is that tech cards do not win games. Get consistent, then tech. And if you don't know what you want in your deck, play around until you do, or net deck, which is the copying of another player's 60 and playing it as your own. One question you need to answer is, what's the deck's engine? How do you search for and draw cards? Next, what does your deck want, so to speak? Does it want to take KOs or play defense? Maybe it wants to mill, or perhaps a combination of these. More specifically, what are your win conditions? With these conditions, make sure your deck can respond to meta decks, in particular the top ones, and keep track of what each card does and why. No dead cards. Last, know your exact 60. Have every card memorized so you know exactly what you are playing. The second category is strategy, and its overarching theme is resource management. First, learn how to play your cards in the right order to maximize your chances of winning. Second, when possible, eliminate cards from your deck in order to increase your chances of finding something you need. For example, playing an Ultra Ball to pick out a Pokémon so you can find rare candy off of a Pokéstop. Third, think about how you will go about taking prizes given what your opponent is offering you on the board. Or if you're playing control, how to best control your opponent based on what they're offering you. Fourth, use a notebook to keep track of crucial information. Fifth, check your prizes by performing a deck check. Sixth, does your deck prefer going first or second? Seventh, do not be afraid to change plans mid-game if it suits your winning faster. For example, I was playing Pidgeot control, I drew pass for turn 1, my opponent had a 70 HP Glimmet, and my opponent drew pass, so I rare candied into Pidgeot, found a DTE, and took the victory. Not how I wanted to play Pidgeot control, but it worked. And eighth, constantly check the board state. Don't assume that because you have a good hand that you can ignore what your opponent is doing. The third category is practice, and its overarching theme is growth. First, playtest. The sooner you log into a deck, the sooner you can develop familiarity with it, which encourages better play. You learn matchups quicker and see plays much easier. And all of these things happen the more you practice, or playtest if you prefer. It's also better to play a weaker deck that you know well, better than a stronger deck that you do not know well. Second, no mindless grinding, by which we mean focus. Ask yourself, why did you win, and how did the deck look? This analysis will help you find things out about your playing the deck much quicker. Third, do not practice or playtest against auto wins. Instead, play your bad matchups because it instructs you in how to play out of those situations. And don't scoop too early. Fight the auto loss because you might learn just how to win, and then actually encounter that situation in a regular tournament. And practice bad hands too. Fourth, ask yourself, why did you lose? We could pair this with playing bad matchups, but it deserves a separate mention because what's implied here is not blaming your losses on so-called luck. What's the quote-unquote real reason you lost? Learn from your mistakes, including the exact decision where you went wrong. When playing, ask yourself, why is such and such a thing going wrong? And how can it go better for me? Fifth, find a playtesting group. Sixth, stay on top of the meta. What are the top decks? Which cards do they play? How do these decks work? What are their win conditions? Seventh, play top decks against each other so you understand how they operate. The fourth category is practicality in the sense of playing at regional tournaments in particular, though some of this applies also to locals, and its overarching theme is utility. First, learn how to properly mash shuffle. Second, get sleep, stay hydrated, and eat. You'll have to bring snacks because you do not get a lunch break. Third, bring extra sleeves. They will wear down, and you may be accused of cheating because a judge might think you are marking your cards. And on a similar note, fourth, be aware of warped cards because judges will check your decks, and you may be disqualified if they are warped too much. Fifth, count out your 60 before each match. Sixth, get fresh air between rounds. Seventh, and I can't believe I have to say this, but be mature and courteous, including taking a shower. Yes, there are Pokemon players that don't bathe. You need to bathe. So, eighth, do not be scared to call a judge if you have a question about something in the board state. The final category is awareness, and its overarching theme is psychology. This category breaks down into two subcategories, things that concern an awareness of ourselves and of our opponents. We will start with the latter. This subcategory concerns things we need to be aware of that concern our opponents during tournament play. First, turn 1 deductions, starting with the coin flip. What your opponents choose can tell you what kind of decks they are playing, and thus what kind of basic Pokemon you ought to start, assuming you have more than one in your opening hand. Energy attachment. Do they attach, and to what? Do they play a supporter? Which cards are being discarded when they discard? What they discard implies that they have more powerful cards in hand, or else they're desperate. What do they choose not to do? For example, not using Squawkabilly EX's discard ability. Second, indicators of prized cards. Questionable actions. Why discard good cards? Body language. Long deck searches. And table talk, by which we mean making conversation and sometimes even literally saying what is going on with your deck, like what you prized, and you say it out of frustration. Play-by-play, however, is common in Japan, whereby you tell your opponent what you're doing as you're doing it, such as, I'm going to flip a coin, I'm going to draw a card, etc. And third, slow play is not only unprofessional and against the rules, but an indication of bad playing or a bad hand, as if to say they're trying to give themselves more time to think. Next is the self. This subcategory concerns things we need to be aware of that concern ourselves both in tournaments and outside of them. First, everything we said above applies to you as well. Don't give your opponents information. Your body language, words, and what you discard, for example, are all things your opponent can use against you. Second, know when to concede, because playing a losing game hurts your time in the round. Give yourself a healthy estimate of how much of a percentage you have of winning, and if it's bad, forfeit. Consider how you can win the game. Is it quick enough? Also ask, how much time until I realize I might lose? Third, playing quickly over playing accurately. If you're playing an aggressive deck, just get KOs to speed up the conclusion. This is usually done under time constraints. Fourth, set realistic goals. How competitive are you? Where are you as a player? And what are you trying to accomplish? Fifth, take things one step at a time. Ask yourself, how can this game situation work in my favor? Sixth, play your opponent, not the board, by which we mean paying attention to their actions and why they do what they do. Seventh, vigilance. Do not commit a penalty, and watch your opponent for penalties, which implies knowing the rulebook. Eighth, have patience with yourself. You're not perfect, mistakes will presumably happen, so move on. Ninth, have fun. If you're not having fun while playing the Pokemon trading card game, why are you doing it? To summarize, we have 5 overarching points. First, pick a consistent deck you know well and presumably enjoy, because you'll be inclined to play it more. Second, learn how to play the right cards in the right order. Third, practice, or if you prefer, playtest. Fourth, take care of the ordinary things needing to be in place to properly play the game. Fifth, know thyself and one's opponent. Thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen. What did I miss? Where am I wrong? Please leave a comment. Take care of yourselves, and may God hold you in the palm of his hand.